Hello and welcome everyone to another quarterfinals edition of Game Central presented by Bear Complex. Get better. Tommy Marquez here at the desk, joined by Neil Maddox. And Neil, taking a look at these first two tests for day number one, what really stands out?
Man, when I'm looking at these tests, I'm going to tell you right now, your midline is going to be blasted for sure. Not only that, I hope you're training your shoulders because shoulder endurance is going to be a must for sure. So I'm really looking forward to this workout kicking off.
100%. And taking a look at this first test and what's in front of these athletes, 3 rounds of 10 strict handstand push-ups, followed by 10 dumbbell hang power cleans. 50 double unders rounds out the triplet. Once you're done with those 3 rounds, you have a mandated 1-minute rest, immediately followed by 3 more rounds. This time it's 10 kipping handstand push-ups, 10 dumbbell shoulder to overhead, and 50 double unders, 35 pounds on the dumbbell for the women, and 50 pounds for the men. Now, Shane Orr is the head coach of Proven Fitness, and he'll be tasked with leading some of the top athletes in the sport through this test. And we had a chance to catch up with him beforehand to get his strategy on test number 1.
Well, the others want this other workout, event 1. Honestly, the learning for that is just transition and aggression. You know, like if you got the capacity, it's, you know, these guys are at that point now. They're just riding that fine line and making sure the reps are clean and transitions are happening aggressively. You know, like I think at the top end of the sport, fortunately, and I get to work closely with these guys. It's the separator now is how fast you can transition efficiently. That's the point we're at now. So it's really cool.
Now, Neil, we heard Shane talk about the importance of transitions in that test, but that's not the only thing these athletes have to be wary of.
Yeah, I mean, you know, transitions are going to be very key, but the biggest thing, you cannot afford any trip-ups on the double unders. You cannot afford any no reps on the handstand push-ups, and for sure, you got to be fast at cycling those dumbbell cleans. But when we get to the shoulder to overhead part, you got to make sure that you don't smoke out your shoulders too soon when you're going to that shoulder overhead back to those double unders because it's shoulder heavy. It's a shoulder-driven workout for sure.
Taking a look at the four-headed matchup that we have in store for you guys in this featured matchup card, we got 2 men from the state of Georgia, 2 training partners in Jake Berman and Noah Olson. They've been thrown down at Training Think Tank. And 2 European athletes, Joona Koski, of course, representing Finland, and Georgios Karavis out of Greece. You know, varying experience levels across the board, but the one thing that stands out, all 4 of these men inside the top 60 worldwide. And looking at these 4 athletes, Neil, taking a quick look at them top to bottom, what really stands out about them?
I mean, obviously these guys are really fit, but the biggest thing that stands out is that they're relatively about the same height and the same weight. So when I see that, I'm saying these guys are going to finish within seconds of each other on these workouts for sure.
One athlete you may not be familiar with, but has put down some impressive scores is Jake Berman. You know, looking at his resume overall, he doesn't have any games appearances, obviously no finishes in the top 10 at the games as a result, but he does manage to find some top performances in the open, finishing in the front page of the leaderboard inside the top 50 twice. So Neil, when you look at Jake, what really stands out about him as an athlete?
Well, the biggest thing is he has experience. So he qualified for the regionals competing on a team 2 times, and then he actually competed in regionals 2 times as an individual. And not only that, he trains with Travis Mayer and he trains with Noah Olson. So when you train with 2 games athletes like that, it's going to only eventually get you to get to their level over time. So what I'm excited about is to see now that he's competing on camera or right next to Noah Olson, how does he tackle this test, and can he beat his training partner that he trains with on a daily basis?
And as you said it, his training partner Noah Olson is another one of our featured athletes here in this matchup. And Noah obviously needs no introduction. He is one of the best in the sport. 7 games appearances overall, multiple finishes inside the top 10. And of course, that comes with success in the open as well, with 7 top 50 finishes worldwide. All right, Neil. Noah Olson is a household name. He's been around the sport for quite some time, but even at this stage of his career, what really stands out to you?
Well, what really stood out was the fact that he placed second at the CrossFit Games in 2019. But not only that, he seems to just keep getting better and better and better. And this is a year that I believe that he has the opportunity of not taking the top spot. But, I mean, the guy has only gotten better. Even the years that I competed against him, and I competed against him way back in the early 2010, 12, 13, 14. So I'm really looking forward to see how he's going to tackle this workout and how he's going to crush it today.
Well, one of the men he's going to be tackling it against is a big name in the sport, but maybe not quite as big as some of the other athletes like Noah Olsen. Joona Koski, representing Finland. He's one of the top athletes in Europe, no doubt. But when you look at his resume, 6 games appearances, 3 finishes inside the top 10. I think that deserves more credit than maybe he gets sometimes. But looking at Joona, what can we expect from him here?
Well, you know Joona Koski, he has a big tank. So if you look at this workout right here, I know he's going to tackle this workout with ease. Not only that, I mean, the guy is a gymnastic artist. I mean, the guy's going to get upside down, and I believe that he's going to knock those things out unbroken. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he game plans and how he strategizes and how fast his transitions are in this workout.
And last but certainly not least, probably the athlete that we know the least about as far as a resume is concerned, Greece's Georgios Karavis. Very similar to Jake Berman, no appearances at the games, no finishes inside the top 10, but in the same vein as Berman on the other side of the pond, he is quite proficient when it comes to workouts that you might see pop up in the open.
The thing what I see with Georgios is that every so often you see him in these open workouts and you'll see his name at the top of the leaderboard. So when you see you see him doing these workouts and tackling these workouts and beating some of these top game athletes, it's showing that he's actually stepping up his fitness while he's tackling these tests. But I'm really curious to see, now that he has a spotlight on him, if he can still maintain that position and maintain that push to vie for a chance to making it to the games this year.
And we're going to get to that matchup in just a moment. We want to share with you guys a special offer from our sponsor at Bear Complex. You visit bearcomplex.com and use promo code CrossFit20. You get 20% off your order today. All right, it is time for our featured matchup for men's test number 1. Noah Olsen is in the upper left corner of your screen, Georgios Karavis in the top right, Jake Berman in the bottom right, and Joona Koski out of Finland in the bottom left. Want to point your eyes towards the top of each video box. There you can see where the athletes are in terms of each round in each of these 3-round triplets. Want to let everyone know that this matchup has been made possible through our athlete-submitted videos, and every single one of these videos has gone through video review and has been passed through our judging team before being presented here.
Yeah.
Neil, these athletes are already the majority of the way through round 1. What are some of the keys that you're looking for early on in this first triplet?
Well, the biggest thing what I'm looking for on the handstand push-ups is I'm looking at speed and efficiency. If the athlete's staying tight when he's up overhead, not only that, is he going down and up? Is he pausing? That's going to tell me if his shoulders are hitting fatigue. But if you look at Noah Olsen right here on the top left and then Jake Berman down in the bottom right, look at how fast he's punching those things out. That's great upper body strength and endurance right there, big time.
Just past the 1-minute mark, and already Berman and Olsen, the first 2 athletes through their first round.
What I really like about Jake Berman, if you look, he's really using his hips. If you look at the difference between Joona Koski and Jake Berman is a guy on the bottom right. He was really bending, using his legs and exploding out of the bottom. You're starting to see Joona Koski do it a little bit more later on in the workout, but if he started to do that at the beginning, I think he would have caught up to Jake, I believe, a little faster.
Just past 90 seconds in, and it is Berman right now in the overall lead. He is almost through his second round of 50 double unders and onto his third and final round of strict handstand push-ups. And I don't know about you, Neil, that proficiency on the handstand push-up is beyond me.
Oh my gosh! I mean, those guys are up and down. It looks like it. I mean, honestly, it looks like they're doing push-ups with how fast they're going right now. Very impressive. But if you look right here, if you look at Karavis, up over here on the top right here, and he just got done finishing his handstand push-ups. I want you guys to look at home on the next round when he does these handstand push-ups. When I'm saying tight when you're upside down, I'm talking about when your legs are together when you're doing those handstand push-ups versus a wider V angle on your handstand push-ups. So on this next time around, I want you guys to take a look and really see the difference in the efficiency in the different athletes when they're performing these movements.
So it looks like we're closing into the end of this first 3-round couplet. Jake Berman is done. It looks to be done around the 2-minute and 38-second mark. Noah Ohlsen just a few seconds behind him. Koski and Karavis rounding out their third and final round as well. Now, remember, these athletes have to do a 1-minute mandatory rest, so we'll see Jake Berman restarting his second 3-round triplet at around the 3-minute and 38-second mark. A close race. It should be noted that even though they're separate videos, in reality, Berman and Ohlsen are just a few feet apart here, throwing down on this workout at Training Think Tank.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. What I really like about this workout is that you get this 1-minute rest. This 1-minute rest allows you to attack the next workout just as hard. So when you're doing it, what I always tell my athletes, especially if they're back at my box, I'm going to tell them, hey, this 1-minute rest, let's get our heart rate back down so we can get into the next workout and just our next test and just attack it as hard as we can. So they're about to take this test right now. This is the second part of this test, and I know they're just going to destroy it.
Berman and Ohlsen on the wall for their first round of 10 kipping handstand push-ups. Athletes get to use their hips now, and Berman holding a slight lead over Ohlsen, his training partner, out of Training Think Tank. And Karavis and Koski are off and on to their second of their 2 3-round triplets in this test. I love what Berman's doing here. We saw from Shane Orr earlier talk about transitions. Berman is wasting no time moving from each movement.
No, not at all. He's just flying through this. I mean, if you look at the speed and efficiency on those double unders. He's pulling his toes up and he's just whipping around that rope big time. He has good wrist speed, good control. Then you look at Noah Ohlsen, same thing. You could tell those guys train together because if you look at Jake Berman, bottom right, Noah Ohlsen, top left, if you look, their double unders are almost identical. Now, when we see them go upside down into those handstand push-ups, same thing. Look at their kip. They're doing like somewhat of a shallow kip, and they're just kipping up and down. And so that kip is actually saving their shoulder endurance a little bit because they're allowing their hips to get a little bit more momentum to get them to finish off those reps.
Berman is your current overall leader, just a few reps ahead of Ohlsen, followed by Karavis in third, and a few reps behind him is Yona Koski in fourth. Berman finishing up his 50 double unders in the second of 3 rounds. He'll head to the wall for one last go to finish out this test.
What I like right now is Jake on the bottom right is just holding on. You can tell he's starting to get a little bit more flex in his knees when he's doing his double unders. So that tells me that he's feeling his shoulders big time. And so he has to use his legs a little bit more so he can jump a little bit higher so he can make those double unders.
Just past the halfway mark at 5 minutes and 30 seconds. I didn't even make it this far in this workout, and they're already past it, about to finish at 5 minutes in. That just kind of tells you the difference between your everyday CrossFitter like myself and some of these elite athletes.
I literally just blinked my eyes, and Jake Berman was done with his handstand push-ups. That's pretty impressive.
Jake Berman on his final set of 50 double unders here, closing in on 6 minutes total on the clock. Just behind him, Noah Ohlsen is also on his final set of double unders. Koski and Karavis are still on their final set of 10 shoulder to overhead. Jake Berman closing in on his final few double unders here, and he is done with a time of 6:13. Just a couple seconds behind him, Noah Ohlsen is now done with a time of 6 minutes and 15 seconds. Karavis and Koski, the last 2 athletes remaining to finish this test. Remember, they'll be going head-to-head if they make it through in Europe to the semifinals as well. Karavis is done. He's in with a time of 6 minutes and 31 seconds. And now it looks like Koski is finishing up as well. He's done in 6:39. All athletes sub 6:41, an impressive performance from the 4 athletes in our featured matchup. Those were the top 4 scores worldwide, but out of the quarterfinals, these athletes will be grouped into their respective continents. So taking a look at the top scores for each one of those 6 continents. Of course, Berman sets the top time in North America, but Omar Martinez sets the time to beat South America at 6:45. And a handful of other athletes, Luke McMahon for Oceania, Alexander Pliushkin, the only athlete just north of 7, leading the way for Asia, and then Keelan Henry with a time of 6:58. He's got the top time overall for the continent of Africa. Now, Neil, moving back to the matchup that we just saw, you know, all of those athletes put up an impressive performance, but only one, Jake Berman, has the top time, and he outdueled some impressive big names as well.
Yeah, what really impressed me about Jake Berman for sure is his handstand push-up speed. If you saw how quick he was up and down, I went to try to comment on it. By the time I was getting ready to start my sentence, he was already finished, and that's impressive. But not only that, when he went to the dumbbells, he had fast transitions, and if you looked at his double unders, I mean, man, he was just whipping that rope. I mean, if you put some matches down there, he would have lit a pack of matches for sure. But man, this guy was just impressive, really impressive.
An impressive performance from Berman overall, and his fellow training partner out of training think tank, Noah Olson, had a top time. But after official review, Noah was actually penalized, and his score was adjusted from 6:15, which we just saw in that featured matchup, and he was docked a few seconds down to 6:25 overall. Neil, what did you see here with Noah Olson and why he may have gotten that penalty?
The biggest thing that I saw was when he went to reset every single time on his dumbbell cleans, he wasn't fully locking out his arms. So if you don't fully lock out your arms, it's going to cost you some reps, and that's exactly what it did. It costed him some reps.
And thankfully not enough to knock him down out of contention for the semifinal spot. But anytime we're talking penalties and the announcement of penalties at these later stages, it's always nice to get a refresher on how to adhere to the standards and a little refresher on some of the specific movement standards for each one of these tests as well. And who better to get them looking forward than the man himself, Adrian Bosman.
So we're really excited about how many people are jumping into the stage of competition. We're seeing a lot of awesome performances from around the world and a ton of athletes that are getting after these tests. So that's really cool. On the other end of that, though, we are definitely seeing some athletes that are deliberately trying to either find a loophole in some of the layouts that we've provided or some of the standards. And I just want to remind competitors that, you know, the CrossFit Games has never been about who is the best at finding loopholes in the standards. The movements, especially at this stage of the competition, are pretty well established and people know what the intent of them is. And so when we do design a lot of the event descriptions, there's a natural balancing act between enough rules that we can have a fair competition and enough standards that people can be sure that they have a good comparison against their competitors. But it's not so robust that you have to sit there and comb through 3 pages of text for a movement that you know you've seen a lot of times in the past. If a lot of athletes start contributing to this competitive culture of trying to find loopholes and operate under the belief that if it's not explicitly excluded, it's fair game, what that does is create an environment where we do have to have more and more and more and more rule sets to try to mitigate that. And so I really encourage athletes to just take the time to think about the contribution that they have to the sport in that action of performing the workout either to standard or knowingly or otherwise with a bit of a sloppy standard. So it's a two-way street there. I think it's important to recognize that, you know, everybody's got some responsibility in there. We have the responsibility to make things as clear as possible. Athletes have a responsibility to try to compete within the spirit of the event.
Thanks, Boz. Always good to hear from Mr. No Rep himself. And of course, as a reminder to all the athletes taking part the rest of the way, go and watch the movement standards. And when you're done, review your video. Make sure you're adhering to all these standards so you don't end up on the wrong end of one of these penalty judgments. And also, as a reminder, if you're recording your video, turn the camera horizontal. Makes for a better video, makes it easier overall in the video review process. So be sure to turn that camera horizontal now for the remaining tests along the way. One athlete who probably won't be submitting any videos, but who decided to tackle the test anyway, Neil, Rich Froning. The 4-time champ put out a time of 6 minutes and 44 seconds. Just decided to do the workout, you know, just for giggles. But really, at this point, should we be even surprised to see a top time from Rich like this?
Not at all. I mean, if you guys look at Rich Browning, he's an OG of fitness, one of the original OGs. I mean, the guy's a 4-time games champion, numerous time team champion. I mean, his work ethic speaks for itself. I don't need to say anything further. I mean, if he wanted to compete as an individual, I have no doubt in my mind that he can podium, if not take the top spot, because he has the mindset, he has a training facility. Not only that, he has the team and he has the support, but not only that, he has 4 rings already.
Even though he's not competing, it's still nice to see Rich throw up some of these top times in these quarterfinal workouts nonetheless, and I'll be looking forward to see how he does, maybe if he decides to test those other ones as well. That's going to do it for this edition of Game Central, presented by Bear Complex. Get better. We got some continued coverage coming your way. We'll be breaking down test number 2 for the men and the women. For Neil Maddox, I'm Tommy Marquez, and we'll see you guys next time.